We are learning Mishna Sotah, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Beis, Mishnah 2. Kates and Mekanala. How does the husband warn his wife? As we said, before the husband will be able to give the bitter waters to his wife to drink to see if she committed adultery or not, there is a process. He has to warn her, and it has to be in front of witnesses. So now the Gemara asks, Kates and Mekanala, how does he warn her? Amar la b'fnei shnayim. If he were to say in front of two people, Al tadabri yamish plani, do not speak with so-and-so. That's all he said. Don't speak with this person. V'dibra imai, and she spoke with him. She didn't heed his warning. Okay. And you have to also add to the Mishnah, and even if, let's say, she went into seclusion with him, meaning the warning was don't speak. The Mishnah says, and she listened, she spoke. Or she actually, after he said don't speak with him, she went into seclusion with him. Adayin hi muteres lebeisa, she is still permitted to her home, which means to her husband. Umuteres lachol b'truma, and she's permitted to eat truma. If a woman becomes a sotah because the warning was done in the way it should be done, as we will see soon, and she went into seclusion, and there were the proper witnesses involved, as we learned in yesterday's Mishnah. If a woman becomes established as a sotah, she is not permitted to her husband. She may not cohabit with her husband, and her husband is a Kohen, she may not eat truma. These are all derived from verses. Now, I believe so. I think they're all derived from verses. These are all derived from verses that when she gets the status of a sotah, she's not permitted to her husband, nor can she eat truma. Now, in the first case of the Mishnah, this first case, the point is the warning was not done in the way that would create the din, that would put the din of a sotah on her. Because what did he say to her? Don't talk to him. If that's the warning, don't talk, that is not considered the kind of warning that will make her into a sotah by which he can then give her the bitter waters to drink. But now the next case is, but as the Mishnah continues, again, there are words you have to add here. If let's say he warned her not to go into seclusion with a certain man, then she did enter with him into a private place, and she remained along with him enough time for her to become impure, meaning for enough time for her to cohabit with him, and that would thus make her impure, that would thus have been considered adultery. If she would have been in seclusion with him that amount of time, the Bartanura says the shir kadei tuma, the amount of time that it takes for a cohabitation to take place, to roast the egg of a chicken and to swallow it. So, whatever amount of time exactly that is. But that's the amount of time that we say is the amount of time for our cohabitation to take place. That's the amount of time that if she remained with him in seclusion, after being warned not to go into seclusion, the result of that would be asira lebeisa, should be forbidden to her house, meaning she would be forbidden to her husband, asira lechol b'truma, and she would be forbidden to eat truma. So the point of the Mishnah is there is a specific way he has to warn her. If he warns her not to talk with him, then she can go and be in seclusion with him. It's not going to make her a sotah. However, if he warns her not to go into seclusion with him, and she goes into seclusion with that man for the amount of time that it takes for her to have done an act of adultery, then she gets the status of a sotah, which means she's not permitted to go out with her husband. She may not eat truma if he's a kayin, and now he will be able to give her the bitter waters to drink. And now, if let's say he dies before he gives her the water to drink, before we have the process to clarify what happened here.
Who dies? The husband?
The husband dies. If the husband died. Now we know in a situation where a man dies without children, that his wife now has to have yibum or chalitza done by her by one of his brothers. Now in this case, if let's say she was married to a man, there were no children, she became a sotah to this man, which means she was not able to cohabit with him. And then he died before he gave her to drink, before anything more was done. So now she falls to yibum. Now there's a question of yibum. The brothers have to do yibum. Their brother died without children. However, the same way she was not permitted to cohabit with her husband, they cannot cohabit with her either. They can't do yibum on her. Practically speaking, they can't do the yibum because the same way the husband was forbidden to her, they're forbidden to her. Okay, but at the same time, the connection of yibum forms. They can't perform it, but there is zika. The connection for yibum is there. And therefore, the same way, let's say by her husband, she was usher to cohabit with her husband. And now she wants to go marry somebody else. What does she need? She needs a get from him. He wasn't allowed to live with her, but she was still married to him, and she needs a get. She needs a bill of divorce in order for her to marry somebody else. So too, when it comes to the chalitza and to the yibum, the man died without children. Now she has a yibum connection to his brothers. Okay, none of them can do the actual act of yibum because, as we said, the same way she was forbidden to cohabit with her husband, she cannot cohabit with her yavim. But that's not enough to say she's scot-free, because the same way the husband would have to give her a get to go marry somebody else, the brother has to free her from the connection to them with chalitza. That's the process of when you don't do yibum, but you don't actually marry the sister-in-law. In order for her to be able to go marry somebody else, you have to do chalitza. The process of chalitza. It's a process that frees her from the bond of yibum to any of the brothers, and now she can go marry somebody else. So in this case, although they cannot do yibum, that doesn't automatically now free her to marry somebody else. Chalitza has to also be done. That's what it means when the Mishnah says the imes, and if the husband died at the point that she was established as a sotah, but we don't know what actually happened there, and then he dies without children, yibum cannot be done on her by any of the brothers, but she needs chalitza, the process of freeing a yavama from her brothers-in-law, in order to go ahead and marry somebody else. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.